You may know that Justin Bieber and the internet are having a moment right now related to his Coachella performance last Saturday. Many are critical, many are saying things like he was lazy or it was a dumb performance or something like that. But what I'm here to talk about are the group of us that have been really touched by what happened on that stage. Now, I don't really pay a lot of attention to Coachella. I was going to say cotention, which should be like a new word at festival season. And I want to talk about why it's striking a chord right now related to the astrology and the time in our human evolution related to changing paradigms around suffering, around abuse, around trauma, around manipulation and exploitation, and the future that we all so desperately, or at least many of us really want to create, that is being reflected by the great cosmic mirror in the sky, the planets and the gods. They are trying to tell us something. And Justin really is a reflection, his performance is a reflection of that critical moment in time. I'm going to break down what's happening in that beautiful mirror that's reflected down on Earth and how you and I can each really take advantage of and grow through this literally never seen before pileup of planets in Aries, really revving up at the time of that performance so that we can better articulate for ourselves where we're at individually, collectively, and where we're going and how to use this amazing, what we call stellium in astrology, of energy in Aries to our greatest benefit and for the healing benefit of everyone around us. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist. I've been doing that for a couple of decades, and I'm also an astrologer. I've been a little more quiet about my practice of astrology. It is a little bit of a chironic sun wound for me to even be talking about it, and that's actually why I jumped on to make this video today. I'm not going to let it sit for days like I usually do in YouTube land. I'm not going to spend a lot of time editing it. I haven't even taken a shower in a couple of days because my life has just been hectic, so I didn't even try to make myself presentable today. And that is a very Aries-like thing to do. I happen to be Aries rising. I happen to have Chiron and Jupiter in Aries conjunct. So I'm saying all this because I have taken a break from publishing as many videos as I typically do since last October when I came back to my channel. And it's really because I've been trying to plan for how to integrate the astrology into my work. So from now on, you're going to see that this channel is really all about concrete healing tools for spiritual growth, as it has always been, but within the context of the cosmos and the current astrological transits. I'm going to do it in a really simple way. I'm going to relate it to life healing themes. This is not an astrology teaching channel. It probably never will be. I'm going to leave that to the people who have been doing it for as long as I've been doing mental health. But the last 5 or 7 years of serious study and reading charts in my own practice as a therapist and seeing the symbols really live in people's lives, when we see them really visibly in the social media space, it's worth talking about because it's striking a chord that is really, really important. So at the time of Justin's performance on Saturday, April 11th, I believe, the sun was starting to get closer to a conjunction with the asteroid Chiron. Symbolically, we refer to as the wounded healer, and I'll explain more about that in a second. And that conjunction will perfect on Thursday of this week in Mountain Standard Time where I live. And when Sun conjuncts Chiron in astrology, we have a really powerful moment, especially in Aries, the sign of I am, me, identity, action, initiation, plans, moving forward. It can be a little impulsive, kind of like how I'm making this video. I'm not making any notes. I'm not reading a teleprompter based on my own self-created script. I'm not doing any of that today. That's a very Aries thing to do. And when the sun, in initiation, action, purpose, the plot of our lives, that's what the sun represents. It's not just ego and identity that, can be flavored in there. But in the ancient world, the form of astrology that I study, the sun is the plot. And when it conjuncts the asteroid that symbolizes in the myth, the centaur who was abandoned at birth, was unwanted, became a teacher, a complementary medicine teacher, essentially, basically found ways to heal himself, and then was injured by the arrow of one of his students, Hercules, and which created a wound that would never heal. And that myth has a beautiful story attached to it where he is eventually liberated from his pain. But what I really want to focus on is this fusion of intention and action, the action of our soul towards our each individual ideals in this lifetime, fusing that energy Thursday, which was happening, starting to get within orb on the day of this performance, where we have a lot of power being manifested and generated that we are all going to experience. So what is that looking like? Why did everyone have such a huge response to Justin Bieber singing to YouTube videos of himself as a kid? Because this is a collective culminating point of Chiron being in Aries since 2019, asking us each to really look at where are we still repressing unhealed parts of ourselves? Where are we stepping over that? Where is it too painful to face? And as Chiron is starting to get to the very last degrees of Aries, and then we'll dip into Taurus for a few months this year, and then back into Aries, and then out next year, we're in a moment where millions of people, for especially the last decade or two, have been talking about trauma, have been talking more openly about healing, including men, which did not historically seem to be the norm. And if I can say just, my own opinion, having watched a bit of Justin's performance, I suspect two things are true. And I have no idea. I definitely don't know him personally, nor do I treat him therapeutically. I would say that he has a really good therapist and that he has been really committed to doing the work. I don't know what his professional, career choices have been motivated by, but it seemed like an incredible act of vulnerability and love for self to perform his set in the way that he did. And to the haters out there, what I would say is those are likely people. And again, it's not really my place to psychoanalyze strangers, and I'm not trying to do that. But typically, people who just want to say, oh, it was so lazy and boring, are probably distancing themselves from their own vulnerability, the own potential pain and tenderness that can come up when we see, especially a man talking to this younger little boy version of himself. And, lots of speculation has been around in the media about what Justin may or may not have experienced in his journey to stardom, which is certainly probably not a protected one for a child, not typically in that realm in Hollywood and in the music industry in general. So what I want to point out is this conjunction, the Sun-Chiron conjunction that's happening on Thursday, is really, especially like if you did happen or you go now to see this footage, if that brought up anything for you, it is because we are in a collective moment of recognizing that there are younger parts of us. Some people might call that internal family systems work, others ego state therapy, others parts work, others just inner child work, which is sort of the first way we talked about this in the late 70s and early 80s. We're realizing that there are actually many multiplicitous parts of us that didn't get seen, heard, nourished, and protected the way they needed to. And the best and most attuned parents are going to still have kids that result in parts that need extra nurturance and healing in adulthood. That's just inescapable, myself included. And then there are some of us that have extra wounding, abuse, violence, neglect of any and all kinds definitely is here for us this week to face, especially in the coming months, but the sun is going to move on. So this lineup in Aries, which has literally never happened before in recorded history, is really inviting us, not in a selfish way, but in a self-full way, to turn inward and think and feel into ourselves, our bodies. Aries is a very physical sign. It's ruled by the planet Mars, which is in its home kingdom, its home temple of Aries right now. It wants to move forward. It wants to move big. It wants to act sometimes impulsively. You might feel anger this week. You might feel intense physical pain that doesn't make sense to you. It might be that you have memories coming, as Neptune is also in Aries, which can influence our dream life, which is about to conjunct Mars. You might feel sick, you might feel overwhelmed, you might feel hazy and foggy, you might feel really low motivation. And you're going to see a lot of YouTube astrology saying like, this is a time to take action and make your dreams come true. Yes, but not in this very moment. in my opinion, Sun Chiron conjunction, Mars conjuncting Neptune, Mars and Saturn conjuncting this weekend, all of that intense energy is really about listening and feeling and maybe making plans to take action. Obviously, I gave myself permission to go ahead and just do this video, but it is really about being in an embodied experience of whatever is coming up for you and probably slowing down enough to be present for it. I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to healing. And it's interesting that so many people are watching Justin's performance, because I actually think one of the reasons that we get kind of hooked on to loops of things that famous people do is it gives us an access point to deeper emotions or considerations like inner child work, which most men aren't talking about. Most celebrities aren't talking about healing their inner child or going back and giving love and recognition and kindness and presence to the younger versions of ourselves that might have been stepped over or even exploited. Now is the time for that. Please carve out some time. So I'm going to give you 3 M's that I'm going to place in a lot of my videos moving forward. So those 3 M's are a meditation to reflect on for the rest of the week, just a thought, a mirror work exercise, and a mantra for the rest of the week. The reflective meditation I'd like you to consider is, where in my body do I feel hurt or angry? Where is that? And what images or memories come up if I just take a few moments to ask myself that question and meditate on that? The mirror work, I want you to look in the mirror in your own left eye. Take a really deep breath and say out loud, I have anger that. I have fear that. I have hurt around. Whatever is coming up in the right now moment. I'm not asking you to go, and please don't go looking for things that aren't there. This is a here, right now intimacy with you, me and me, you and you, yourself in the mirror on what is present in that right now moment. And then your mantra for the week is, I am willing to feel fully, loudly, and safely. So what I mean by that is, where can you express sound, noise, breath? Maybe that's tears. Maybe it's, maybe it's shaking. Maybe it's punching a punching bag really hard, or, kicking something that's not going to break or scare people around you. How can you give yourself, and where can you give yourself permission to feel fully, loudly, meaning get big, let yourself get big. Mars in Aries wants to do that. Saturn is going to try to kind of put the brakes on that. Sun conjunct Chiron really wants us to say, this is living in me in this moment, and how does it want to be expressed? And then how can I take really good care of myself after I've done that? Do I need to take a bath, a shower, go be by some water, call a friend, pet an animal in my house? So those are my thoughts. This is my first real current astrological transit video. Please let me know what you think. I'm facing my own chironic wound to talk about this. It's so easy for me to talk astrology privately with clients one-on-one, a little more intimidating to do so off the fly in YouTube land. So any encouraging words you have for me, I will appreciate it. And please like, share, hype, and subscribe. I so truly appreciate it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one coming up this weekend. Bye for now.